we go. Alright, so we're going to solve by completing the square. Yes. You can still act like a broker.
We all have to sing everything we say.
Okay, x squared plus 6x plus 9. You don't have to write this down. I'm going to show you what it means to complete this square. Okay, this is a trinomial. What's that?
X plus g squared.
It's 3 terms. It's a special type of trinomial called a perfect square trinomial because the last term is
Square.
a perfect square. When I factor this, which don't worry, you're not going to have to factor, but I'm just showing you where this comes from. So when you factor this, you get what? X plus 3 and x plus 3. And guess what? X plus 3 and x plus 3 are the same. So this is the same thing as writing x plus 3 squared. Okay? So this is called a perfect square trinomial. So the most important part of today's lesson is that you are going to have to do this. You're going to have to make something a perfect square trinomial, and then you're going to rewrite it like this. Once we get here, then we'll solve it just like this. So, on to the problems. Okay, so the first few, and the first one should be really easy for you, since I just did that problem. It says decide what number must be added to make each expression a perfect square trinomial. So we're just figuring out what goes in the blank to make this a trinomial that has a perfect square at the end. Now you can't just pick any perfect square. It has to be a specific one that you can factor. So, if you were paying attention 5 seconds ago, what was the first one? 9. Now let's see if we can figure out how to get that. I don't know.
Wait,
I mean, if I hadn't just done the last problem where you knew it was 9.
Oil.
No.
Factor. Same thing.
But what if, like, if you just had this one, you have a blank? You can't really factor that. You don't know.
4, 6, 4. It's 0.4, I'm sorry.
I'll show you. It's very easy. You take the middle term and divide it by 2. So in this case, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then whatever you get, you
square it.
Okay, so to figure out what the last term is, it's the middle term. Striking it out. So divide it by 2, and then
that one is 0.16.
So we would do negative 0.8 divided by 2. I forgot to my calculator here, so I'll tell me. And then square that. 1.6.
What are the hard ones?
Told you so.
You shut up.
Are you sure it's 1.6? 0.16.
I was right.
Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
Why?
Because a negative times a negative isn't positive.
Right, so anytime you square something is positive, so the third number, it will always be positive. That's why these already have a plus. Okay, last one, it's a fraction. Okay, you can change it to a decimal if you want. So shoot your calculator. 1/4 divided by 2, and then square it. Okay, since the original was a fraction, can you change it back to a fraction?
1/64.
1/64. That is not the hard part. If you're like, well, that wasn't so hard after all. She lied to me. But this is the important part. This is the new part. Is there anything about that that's confusing to you?
No, I like it.
Think you got it?
It's way better than the stop signs.
Okay. Now we're going to use that to solve the completing the square. By completing the square. We're going to do 5 of these. We have x squared minus 2x minus 24 equals 0. So the first thing you're going to do is move the 24 to the right side. So it's out of the way. So keep using different colors so you can see the different steps. With me so far? I'm going to go really slow. Right. So forget about the 24. Just look at the left side, and we're going to do it just like the 3 problems we did at the beginning. So I want to figure out what goes in the blank to make that a perfect square trinomial. One. Positive 1. How did you get that?
You divide it.
Divide by 2 and square. So it's negative 2 divided by 2 squared. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. Okay? Now, whatever, just like when you solve any kind of equation, anything you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So since we added 1 to the left, we need to add 1 to the right. Nothing too crazy yet. Good so far? Okay. Now the next step is to factor, but since you're so fond of factoring, the shortcut is to just write this as a factor squared. Okay, so what number times itself multiplies to 1 and adds up to negative 2?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Negative 1 plus negative 1 is negative 2. Okay, but there's really a shortcut to that. Anyone see another way we could get negative 1? That's a good guess. It's just half of the middle term. So negative 2 divided by negative 1. Negative 2 divided by 2 is it. Okay, so just half of the middle term. The really important part, you have to put a square here. Sometimes people forget that. And what do you have on the right side?
You just solve it like
Stop there. See if you have any questions. See if you understand.
I thought why are we making it into x minus 1 squared? That's what I
Why?
Yeah, like why?
We're doing that so we can solve it like we did yesterday. From here, you can solve it by square roots. That's why we're doing it.
So we leave
It's x minus 1, but that's the same thing twice.
So do we leave it there?
Okay, no, I'm just pausing. Questions? So, those of you who were here yesterday should be able to solve this from here. This is solving by square roots. Okay, so I'm using different colors. The green stuff was what we did in new. Now we're going to just solve by square roots. So how do we solve this by using square roots?
square root both sides.
So x minus 1 equals so close. Negative 5.
Well, it's minus 1.
What?
Oh, plus or minus. Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Plus or minus 5. So anytime you introduce the square root into a problem, you need to put a plus or minus. Since it's square root of 25, plus or minus 5. Okay. Now we're pretty much finished. We just gotta work it out. What do I do? With x myself, add 1, put it in front.
Plus or minus 6. Oh, 6.
You gotta work this out. It's 1 plus 5 and 1 minus 5. So 1 plus 5 is 6. And then 1 minus 5 is
Negative.
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 Okay, so don't just get one answer for the plus or minus. There is 2 totally different answers. Hopefully you did that one yesterday. Bring mine to each paper and fix it. Questions? None? That was easy?
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Maybe you won't think this harder. It's just more steps, okay? Because we started right there. Alright, so let's try. I don't want to make it super hard. Can't help it if it's hard to get through it. Okay, another problem. Same thing. So we move the 1 over. Make that positive 1. So see if you can figure out what those look like. Yes, look at a decimal or fraction. Probably easier to use a decimal. But you can do it however you want. Anyone?
1.25.
12.25. How do you get 12.25?
7 divided by 2 squared.
7 divided by 2 and then square that. So 3.5. So since we added 12.2 to the left side, we need to add 12.25, sorry, to the right side. Okay. Right side, that's going to be easy to simplify. It's just 13.25. But on the left, it's really just factoring. So you want to find two numbers that multiply to 12.25 and add up to 7. That's difficult because of decimals. So the easier way is just take half of the middle term. So half of 7 is 3.5. We're setting it up so that the factoring problem works that way. So it's just half the middle term. Okay, so that right there, that's the new part. Everything else should be reviewed. Okay. So what do I do after this? Square root. X plus 3.5. Okay, I know we haven't been doing that, but just use a calculator. What's the square root of 13.64? 3.64. We'll just say if it's a long decimal, just use 2 decimal places. Oh, I forgot one thing though. What did I forget? And then the last step is to subtract 3.5. So it's going to be negative 3.5 plus 3.64 and negative 3.5 minus 3.64.
So one of them is 1.4 or 0.14.
And negative 7.14. Negative 3.5 minus 3.64 is negative 7.84. Yes.
On the, like how it says x plus 3.5 squared, is it always going to be 7 divided by 2? Or like that number?
Yes. Think you got it?
Thanks, bro.
We're not quite ready for the homework yet. We're getting close. 3.
2 times 16.
5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, no, 6, 7, 8. 3 problems. Okay, anything that makes this one different?
5.
5. Move the 2 over. So when, yes, thank you, negative 2. When I have something in front of the x squared, there's an extra step. Okay, I need to, since I'm factoring, I need to move that outside the parentheses, factor it out. Okay, we've done this before, it's dividing the GCF, but the GCF is just whatever's in front of the x squared. So divide everything by 5. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. Don't have to do anything to the right side of the equation. That's why we moved that 2 first. Okay, so this one, forget about the 5 for just a second. Just figure out what goes in the parentheses. So this is the completing the square part. You're trying to find the perfect square that goes in the parentheses. So half negative 2, and then square that. 1. Half negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. So far? Okay. But whatever we do to the left side, we have to do the right side. So you might think we're going to add 1 to the right side, but are we just adding 1 here? You're adding 5. You know why you're adding 5? Yes, because the 5 is distributed to everything in the parentheses. Okay? So really, when we put a 1 in the parentheses, we're adding 5 to the whole problem. So we need to add 5. Now it's not too bad. So x minus 1 squared, just half of the middle term. equals what? 3. Okay. Well, I haven't gotten there yet. Now I'm just trying to get x by itself. What can I do to get x by itself? Yeah, before we do the square, let's divide. Divide by 5. So what's that? 0.6. Now, does it look like a problem from yesterday? It took us a while to get there, but it finally does. Okay, so you should be able to figure it out. I mean, I know it was confusing up to there, but now you should be able to do it. So, go pretty quickly from here. So do the square root. And you put plus or minus something. 0.77. And then to get x by itself, I add 1. So it's 1 plus 0.77 and 1 minus 0.77. You see it all at one time? So, give you a chance to look at that and see if you understand. Yeah, this one is the hard one, and then we're going to do one more like it. It does. Okay, so change, if you're having trouble, just go ahead and change things to fractions. I mean, decimals without fractions. It's a little bit easier to choose your calculator. Ready for one more?
Yes.
Like this? 2 more problems. So 2k squared plus 5k minus 2. Right, you should know the first step by now. Move the 2 to the right, so plus 2. Because I have something in front of the first term, 2k squared. You have to move it outside the parentheses. What does that do to the 5? 2.5. Doesn't do anything to the 2. Okay, this one's going to be horrible with decimals. But what's half of 2.5 squared? That's half of 2.5 squared?
1.56.
That's what we get.
1.5.
But
Say so.
you're really adding.
Right, so it is 1.56, but you're really adding 2 times that, and I really have no idea what that is. 3.12? 125?
It's just
3.125. 1 3.
We'll just keep it consistent at 2 decimal places. Sure, Mom. Uh-oh. It won't be that big. Okay, so we have 2 times k plus 1.25 squared equals 5.13. So we're going to try to work it out from here. Can you work it out from here? Is it too scary? This is the hardest one. So if you can do this, then the rest will be easy. Don't say I didn't warn you. I touched you. I hated that. $2.57-ish. If you're off by 1 decimal place, it's okay. It's not. It's 2.565. 2.57. Close. Now, from here, this is what we did yesterday. So stay right here. Square root. Get k plus 1.25 equals something.
3.82. Wait, what'd you say?
I got 1.6.
Did you do square root?
Plus or minus 1.6. And then subtract 1.25. Oops. Oh. Pretend like that's okay, but I'll rewrite it. So negative 1.25 plus 1.6 and negative 1.25 minus 1.25 and negative 2.85. Oh, that one was bad.
What's it? I mean,
It's a lot
all
of
the
steps.
steps.
Right. It's not horrible. It's not the worst thing we've done, but it's not the easiest problem. But this is really the hardest. Any questions, or you get all the steps? Do some practice.
What am I doing?
Hopefully you have a calculator because these decimals are going to be impossible without.
But
Ah!
No.
I'll look at it in a second. Okay, last one. Negative m squared minus 6m minus 12 equals 0. Okay, it looks confusing with the negative in front, but let's use some common sense math. What can you do to get rid of that negative?
well, you can move sides.
Yeah, it's multiplying by a negative or dividing by a negative, however you want to think of it, or move it to the other side. But basically, you can just change all the signs, as long as you do it to every single term. Okay, now it's not too bad. There's nothing in front of the m squared, so we're not going to have to factor it first. With this one, we just move 12 over. Figure out what goes in the blank. 9. Right, half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. We'll add 9 to each side. Am I going too fast? Okay. What goes in parentheses?
N plus 6.
Close.
N plus 3. Okay.
Say whatever. And on the right I have negative. Okay, now we're solving by square roots. So take the square root of each side. You get m plus 3 equals, oh no, what are we going to do? Just square the negative over. Close. What'd you say? I'm thinking you're right. 3i. Just that, yeah. 3's got to stay in the radical. You can get a decimal if you want, but if you have an I involved, there's really no, it doesn't help you to get a decimal because in some ways this one's easier. There's not a whole lot else we can do. All we need to do is move the 3 over and put it in front. Okay, so it's just negative 3 plus or minus I right. Can't really simplify it down to 2 answers. I mean, there is 2 answers because of the plus or minus. Can't go any further than that. Okay, so yesterday you should have had several answers that look like this. You got to the imaginary. See, that one wasn't too bad because those had 9. So, here is your assignment for today. So these last few have I's. The first section is where you just complete the square. It's one answer, so we have a lot. It's complete the whole solving problem. Then if you forgot yesterday and whatever, this tells you everything you're doing for the rest of the week. So tomorrow will be your last assignment. That's another good news.
Bye.